The first time I heard about Drag Queen Story Hour was in a video by Blair White. Differences aside, her thumbnail immediately caught the eye with the strangeness of the person shown on it. He looked strange. I sincerely did not, and still do not, understand why drag queens reading books to kids was being presented as equivalent to an LGBT education. Prior to this, I've always felt vaguely uncomfortable with the idea of drag shows. My mom held a birthday party at a drag club in downtown Atlanta after seeing a few commercials for RuPaul's Drag Race, and it struck me how grotesque they looked. The exaggerated makeup and female proportions, the falsettos and sexualization, it all felt like playing dress up in your older sister's closet to make fun of her without understanding the why as to how she dressed or acted that way. And after the show, they could always take off those costumes and go right back to normal life. There is no taking off the costume as a woman. I am a woman no matter how I dress or act, and tell others to perceive me as, and women are oppressed. Hundreds of years of research has been built off the understanding of male as the norm, meaning that the medical research of today, which is used to treat you when you go to the hospital, even the newer stuff, which does try to take into account sex differences, are built for men, not for you. This stems from the 3rd century, where Aristotle described the female body as the inverse of the male body, with its genitalia turned outside in. Women were marked by their anatomical difference from men and medically defined as faulty, defective, deficient. But women also possessed an organ of the highest biological and social value, the uterus. Possession of this organ defined the purpose of women, to bear and raise children. Knowledge about female biology centered on women's capacity and duty to reproduce. Being biologically female defined and constrained what it meant to be a woman. Women's illnesses and diseases consistently related back to the secrets and curiosities of reproductive organs. This same article timidly walks back this statement, mentioning that gender and sex are two different things, but the point still stands. Healthcare fails women in a myriad of ways, from the research labs that only use male animals because it is more difficult to account for female hormone changes, to the hospitals and caregivers that refuse to take female chronic pain seriously. When men wear drag, they still have the privilege of medicine being centered around their bodies. They have the privilege of being taken more seriously in court, of winning custody whenever they choose to fight for it, and to receive all of the benefits of being male in a workforce. These men get to dress up as women, pretend at being a bimbo for a few hours, joke about being real women, and get off to the experience. Meanwhile, we're still here, suffering from being a real woman and trying to break from the stereotypes that drag queens flaunt as being the definition of womanhood. Furthermore, in the USA, drag acts have their roots in blackface minstrel shows, and in Europe in the pantomime dames popular from the 19th century onwards. While closely linked to gay culture and nightlife, drag shows have a reputation for highly sexualized comedy and song. While some may see drag as bawdy comedy and others as an expressive art form, I find it difficult to separate its original purpose of making fun of black women from its current status. The question stands. Why are parodies of gender stereotypes acceptable and why parodies of racial stereotypes are not? And this is what is being presented as education on LGBT people. As stated on their website, Drag Queen Story Hour is just what it looks like. Drag queens reading stories to children in libraries, schools, and bookstores. DQSH captures the imagination and play of the gender fluidity of childhood and gives kids glamorous, positive, and unabashedly queer role models. In spaces like this, kids are able to see people who defy rigid gender restrictions and imagine a world where people can present as they wish, where dress up is real. All criticisms of this story hour are called homophobic and are staunchly defended as giving LGBT youth representation that could be life-changing. One supporter, a British politician by the name of Mahari Black, tweeted that, "If my school had invited a gay MP and a drag queen to visit during LGBT History Month, or even acknowledged that LGBT History Month existed, it would have made an immeasurable difference to the difficult childhoods my LGBT classmates and I had." This mimics the claim that DQST makes, which is to offer queer role models to children. But how does having a man dressing up as a caricature of a woman show support to LGBT youth? It doesn't destigmatize gender nonconforming youth or illustrate that it gets better to those who are dealing with the realization of their sexuality. It doesn't normalize same-sex relationships in any way. Most recently, Vicky Palladino, a New York councilwoman, criticized a $200,000 program that sends drag queens into city classrooms to read to children and is now receiving death threats from the public, blowback from the mayor, speaker, and fellow council members, and a call by the local Stonewall to be stripped of her committees and censured. The drag queens in question are adult entertainers with unquestionably adult content under their belts. Those who like to claim fear-mongering and slippery slope fallacies must take into account that there have been predators involved with the program in the past. Brett Blom, an elected judge best known for his role as president and CEO of Cream City Foundation, a financial supporter of the Milwaukee chapter of Drag Queen Story Hour, was arrested after investigators connected him to graphic videos depicting sexual abuse of children. According to court documents, Mr. Blom uploaded pictures and videos of children to the Kick Messenger app on 27 separate occasions under username DomMasterBB. The uploads were explicit and depicted children who were prepubescent and even toddlers. They were allegedly sent between October and November 2020 to individuals and in a group message while living in the same house as his husband and 2 kids. Albert Garza, a registered child sex offender, was one of the drag queen storytime readers to children at the Houston Public Library. Garza, who performed as a drag queen Tatiana Malanina, was convicted of aggravated sexual assault of an 8-year-old child in 2009. He received 5 years of probation and community supervision. The monthly library program launched in September 2017. According to its organizers, no background checks on drag queen volunteers were performed in contravention of library policy. In October of 2018, Mass Resistance, a Houston group opposed to the drag queen reading program, launched a lawsuit against the mayor and the Houston Public Library executive director. From that point forward, the organizers said if any performers wanted to be involved in our story time or if previous performers wanted to read in the future, they needed to apply as volunteers and undergo background checks. In another case, 21-year-old drag queen Flowjob, otherwise known as Nathan Mullen, read stories to 5-year-olds with X-rated pictures on Instagram and Twitter which showed the performers simulating sex acts. At another library event, a drag queen stripped for teens and tweens with sex toys and other paraphernalia. So not only is there danger to children, not only ideologically or emotionally through this portrayal of LGBT people, but physically as well. Once again, predators will take advantage of the get-out-of-criticism free card one receives when they are male and identify as queer. The truth is, drag queen storytime is not for kids. It's for adults to feel better about how accepting they are of the weird and strange and to signal to other adults that they are raising their kids in the right dogma. It illustrates leftist performatism to the letter, as the money spent could go towards far better goals. Educational speakers, more books for the library, field trips, and school supplies, for one. $200,000 spent on men in dresses reading to children, and for what? It certainly doesn't help LGBT people, and it most certainly doesn't help children. This, dear viewers, is where we part. This, I know it's been talked about before previously by several other people, but I recently saw a news article about that councilwoman coming under fire, and it's crazy to me because people support her. And I know some people on the council who are outwardly being rude and saying mean things support her as well, because if you have common sense, how could you not? And yet, I guess common sense really just isn't that common, because it just astounds me to find that someone could get so much flashback for saying, why are we spending $200,000 on men in dresses reading to kids, when you could spend that money on so much better things. Anyhow, let me know in the comments down below what you think, comments, concerns, and the like, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.